Good to have you with us on a Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for being here. Happy almost weekend. We're going to start with the race to the White House. Polls are showing VP Harris and former President Donald Trump in a dead heat with just 18 days until the election. Both candidates are leaning on some of their more famous backers this week. Elon Musk and former President Barack Obama, for example. That's to try to win over critical, undecided battleground state voters.
So far, more than 9 million Americans have already cast their ballots in early voting. And after a week of town halls and media interviews, both candidates will be on the ground in battleground Michigan today. NBC News senior political reporter John Allen is here to give us a look at where the race stands just 2.5 weeks from Election Day. But first, let's go to NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa and NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who covers the Trump campaign with the latest on each candidate's campaign. Vaughn, we'll start with you. So last night we had the Al Smith dinner here in New York City, which benefits Catholic charities. It's a tradition that goes back to the Kennedy-Nixon race so long ago. Usually both candidates go. Last night, VP Harris sent a video instead. Melania Trump was there making a rare appearance. What were the headlines for Mr. Trump last night?
This is a different era in our politics, if I may. And Kamala Harris not appearing there last night was noteworthy because usually this is a venue where jokes are cracked between the two presidential candidates, and 8 years ago, it was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And there were some uncomfortable moments between the two. And that is where you saw the Harris campaign take their efforts to battleground Wisconsin. They submitted a 3.5 video, but it was Donald Trump over the course of nearly a half hour gave his own version of a roast. Take a listen to one of his jokes.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
Was really quite a crowd. You saw Chuck Schumer, the Democratic senator here from New York, sitting right next to him. Governor Kathy Hochul was there. Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. They haven't spoken since January 6th. They were one-time friends. He was sitting in front of him. Michael Bloomberg, the former New York City mayor, who also tried to run for president in 2020, sitting there as well. There was one moment where he took a crack at the Harris family. There were other moments where he told the Catholics in the room, this was for Catholic charities, that the onus was on them to vote for him because Kamala Harris doesn't care about Catholics, suggesting her appearance there was her sending a statement.
Ali, let's bring you in here. So Harris's campaign said she didn't attend the dinner because she wanted to focus on campaigning in crucial battleground states. One of those is Wisconsin, which is where Harris was last night. What was her main message to voters there?
Yeah, that's right. She decided last month not to attend that dinner, as you mentioned, sending in that pre-recorded video so she could barnstorm those critical blue wall states that her campaign is depending so heavily on. And so we saw her in Wisconsin yesterday holding 3 campaign rallies. But her rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin was arguably her most notable as she really leaned into this trend we're seeing from her as she sharpened her attacks against former President Trump, in this case using his most recent comments against him. She talked about that all-women's town hall that he participated in on Fox earlier this week, criticizing him for referring to himself as the, quote, father of IVF. And then she showed this video montage to the crowd of clips of former President Trump touting his role in overturning Roe v. Wade and then using that to frame, again, this argument that he would be a threat to democracy and as evidence that he would be a risk if elected to a second term, particularly to women. She also talked about that Univision town hall that Trump participated in with Latino voters earlier this week, accusing him of gaslighting the American people after he called January 6th, quote, a day of love. She also used that recent Fox News interview that she did to really make the case that, in her words, she would be a president for all people, that she's not better than stepping outside of her comfort zone. And so this is what we could expect to see more of from her in these last few days until the election, really trying in the clearest way possible to draw this contrast between her and former President Trump, to try to get as many voters out there as possible, guys.
Vaughn, let's talk about Republican Minority Leader. Senator Mitch McConnell made some scathing remarks about the former president. This is in a new book about him. It's called The Price of Power. In it, he called Mr. Trump, quote, a despicable human, stupid, and unfit for office, and yet he has endorsed Mr. Trump for office this year. Is the Trump campaign worried at all about what kind of impact this could maybe have on those moderate Republicans who aren't Trump fans but are on the fence?
No, because Donald Trump has used Mitch McConnell really as sort of a figure of the old Republican Party. He's called him Old Crow, Mitch McConnell. Now he's planning to step down as Senate Majority Leader after this year here if the Republicans were to hold on to power in the Senate. But this, for Donald Trump, is somebody here, I think, who is very representative of the rest of the Republican Party over the last 10 years as Donald Trump has reigned over it. Somebody who says in this book here, quote, that Trump is stupid as well as being ill-tempered and can't even figure out where his own best interests lie, and said that it was not just Democrats who could not wait for Donald Trump to get out of power on January 20th, 2021, and he placed blame for the January 6th attack at the feet of Donald Trump. Yet, you said it, Joe. Who did Mitch McConnell endorse here in 2024? He endorsed Donald Trump. And in his response as to why, he said, well, his own vice presidential nominee and running mate, J.D. Vance, has said worse things than he has even said about him. Of course, J.D. Vance, at one point, he called Donald Trump America's Hitler. And once again, you see the Republican Party leadership coalescing around Donald Trump because, as so often goes in politics, you can't get much done unless you have power. And they see Donald Trump as a pathway to pushing through Republican legislation up on Capitol Hill.
But here's the thing, the race between these two neck and neck, right? At least several Democratic leaders are nervous about that and the party's chances of winning the election. How is Harris responding to their fears?
Well, remember that growing pressure campaign that Democrats led against President Biden a couple months ago, urging him to step down from the 2024 race. And now my colleague Peter Nicholas is reporting that there are Democrats with growing anxiety about whether Harris is doing enough or spending enough time on the campaign trail, given how stagnant the polling numbers are, given that these polls have been neck and neck for months now. But the Harris campaign is seeing this as more of a driver to get Democrats out to the polls when they see how tight they are. They are more driven to get out and vote. But remember, we saw this criticism in the early days of her candidacy about her media strategy, specifically from Republicans. And then we saw that shift to her doing much more media and engaging with the media more. This criticism now from members of her own party may be enough to really light a fire under the campaign and get them out on the campaign trail more.
All right, Allie Raff, Yvonne Hilliard, thank you both for kicking us off this hour.
Now let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter John Allen. John, good morning. So we've seen both candidates out there, heard a lot from them in town halls and media interviews all across battleground states. We're just 18 days away now. What are the final messages for each of these candidates to sway voters?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. I think, number one, what we're seeing in the final leg here is an absolute turn toward the negative. Which, not only is aimed at driving out the turnout on each candidate's own side, but also trying to suppress the turnout for the other side. So, with Kamala Harris, she is making the argument that Donald Trump is dangerously unstable, that he's unfit for office. And this is an argument we've heard about Donald Trump before. And Donald Trump's argument about Kamala Harris is that she, as he has said in his own words, that she's not that bright. And that she is dangerously liberal. We've also heard that argument before from Donald Trump about Democrats. So same arguments and different Democratic candidate now.
So, John, looking at this from a bird's eye view, what's the one or two things you're focused on that could impact the outcome? Could it come down to a specific issue or a specific group of voters?
We have seen such close elections in the last two cycles, and I think the campaigns on both sides are looking at super close elections right now that anything could tip the balance. We're talking about possibly fewer than 100,000 votes over a couple of states, maybe as the deciders. But in terms of the issue set, what you're hearing Trump talk about is, immigration. He's talking about inflation. He's talking about Israel. Those are the issues that he sees benefiting him. You hear Kamala Harris talking about some of the issues that she thinks benefit her, whether that's abortion or health care, Social Security and Medicare. And of course, the number one thing that Democrats have been saying about Trump for a long time, which is that he is a threat to democracy.
Some big names, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, they're out on the campaign trail this week on both sides of this. Elon Musk was in Pennsylvania solo, actually, for Trump. Shark Tank star Mark Cuban was with Harris in Wisconsin. Former President Obama will be in Arizona today. From what you've seen in past presidential campaigns, do last-minute pushes like this, do endorsements and celebrities being the ones out on the trail make a difference?
I'll go back to what I just said a moment ago in terms of anything could make a difference in such a small election. But the short answer is no. I mean, if Americans haven't made their mind up about Donald Trump at this point after a decade, pro or con, I doubt that Elon Musk or Barack Obama is going to make up their mind for them. Obviously, Kamala Harris has some ability to potentially persuade some folks who have not yet, who aren't Trump voters but haven't yet decided to vote for her. There's still some possibility of that. I think that's where, President Obama or other surrogates might be a little bit helpful at the margins. But, largely people aren't voting on the surrogates.
So, John, I mean, Vice President Harris has recently sharpened some of her language against Mr. Trump, calling him unhinged, unstable, whereas Mr. Trump's comments about Harris have always been pretty sharp, sometimes even discriminatory. Voters say they don't like negative politics, but time and time again, history tells us these personal attacks actually work, right?
Yeah, I don't like gaining weight, but I love eating chocolate. Voters say they don't love the negative attacks, but the reason that the campaigns do them is that they do work.
John Allen, always a great time having you on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Turning now to a major development in the war in the Middle East, where Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has been killed. He was the mastermind of the October 7th massacre. We learned yesterday that Sinwar was killed Wednesday by Israeli defense forces who were on patrol in the Gaza Strip. They claim these right here are his final moments, captured in this drone video. NBC News has not independently confirmed that.
Speaking on Israeli television Thursday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Sinwar's death the beginning of the day after Hamas.
For more, let's bring in NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald. Megan, good morning. So Sinwar was killed 2 days ago. We just got the confirmation yesterday. This was not an operation that was actually targeting him specifically. So how did the IDF make this connection? What are we learning about his final moments?
Yeah, guys, good morning. You're absolutely right. I mean, Sinwar was not killed in some sort of planned special operation. Instead, it was happenstance. The IDF says that they saw 3 Hamas forces fleeing from house to house. Gunfire was exchanged, and Sinwar fled alone into another house. The IDF then sends in a drone, which appears to locate Sinwar with an apparent gunshot wound to the hand. The IDF says in his final moments, he throws a wooden plank towards the drone before forces fire inside this bombed-out house. Israeli forces say Sinwar was masked, he was wearing a vest, and armed when they found him inside. Guys?
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Sinwar's killing a milestone. What is he saying about what comes next? What does this mean for the war? And also any response from Hamas?
Well, look, there's a lot of speculation. There was a lot of speculation yesterday when we heard, before we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu, that the killing of Sinwar could mean this would be the end to the war in Gaza. But in his speech last night, Netanyahu said it's not the end of the war, it's the beginning of the end. And he vowed to keep fighting until the hostages are free. While this was absolutely crippling, a crippling blow to Hamas, this morning they remain defiant. A senior Hamas official has given a statement to our Keir Simmons saying that Hamas has lost many leaders over the years, but only become stronger and more popular. The statement goes on to say that Hamas is a liberation movement of people looking for freedom and dignity, and this can't be eliminated.
So,
Guys.
Megan, NBC News spoke with a woman whose in-laws were kidnapped on October 7th. I want to play some of her reaction to the death of Sinwar. Take a listen.
It feels a big sorrow that he's dead, because I want the hostages back home now. I want Grandpa to be back home. I want the Bivas children to be back home. And I think this will be impossible now when Sinwar is dead.
So, Megan, what could Sinwar's killing mean for the family members of those remaining hostages? And what about also for the Palestinian people who have been living in this dangerous situation in Gaza?
Yeah, guys, there's a lot that we don't know. I mean, will the hostage negotiations resume? When will this war in Gaza end? We are, however, hearing from the families of hostages, as you heard from that woman just there. Many are happy that Sinwar is dead, but they won't be satisfied or complete, of course, until their loved ones are safely home. And again, you know, we're talking about 101 people that are still being held hostage, though it's unclear how many are still alive. As for the millions of people in Gaza, a ceasefire, you know, certainly can't come fast enough. I mean, the situation on the ground, as we've been talking about for the whole week now and reporting for months, just continues to deteriorate as aid still struggles to make its way into the enclave. We know that some trucks made it into Gaza City after the warning from the White House to try and increase aid, but it is still a drop in the bucket for what these folks need. Guys.
Megan Fitzgerald, Megan, thank you so much. Let's get to some good news for our wallets this morning. Some economic data from Thursday points to an increasingly strong economy, which is giving both consumers and investors some much-needed relief amid fears of a potential recession.
Yeah, get this. Yesterday, the Dow Jones closed at a new all-time high, while retail sales grew from August to September, outpacing expectations. And as stocks are looking up, the Labor Department is reporting that applications for unemployment benefits have dropped and are better than expected in recent weeks.
For more on all things money this morning, we are joined by our friend, Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Caleb, good morning. So just walk us through some of the good news for our economy this morning. What kind of picture does all this data paint?
Yeah, it shows us that we're actually maybe in that soft landing zone. Generally speaking, the headline numbers are very good. Retail sales grew more than expected last month. That was because of lower gas prices. But we were out spending on apparel, spending on personal care, spending on sports equipment, spending on clothing. That helps a lot when gas prices are down. That gives us a little bit more cushion in our wallet. But also weekly jobless claims falling even after 2 hurricanes and that strike at Boeing. That just tells you that companies are not quick to lay off workers right now. There's still plenty of jobs out there. Headline numbers are looking very good. That's translating into the stock market, which keeps making record highs after record highs. We're on a 6-week win streak here, the longest of the year. And I think if you look back 2 years ago, almost to the day, this is when the bull market began. We were at the depths of a bear market just 2 years ago. We're up 63% since then. So all this is translated well for the investing class.
Caleb, as you just said, looks like maybe this is that soft landing. Just put in context how difficult it is to stick that landing, the different levers that had to be pulled and buttons that had to be pushed and all these little machinations we've seen come from the Fed that puts us in this place right now.
Yeah, well, we did have inflation at a high of over 8% just a few years ago, right? And we did have these concerns that we would go into a deep recession. Well, we never actually did. We had a couple of quarters of soft growth. So by keeping those interest rates so high, which was painful for a lot of people that had borrowed money, that really slowed inflation down. Now, inflation is kind of stuck in 2.5%, but the fact that it actually worked and prices have stopped going up as dramatically, that is very difficult to do, especially in an economy that was so dislocated after the pandemic. That's actually good. Companies are actually doing well. If you look at corporate earnings, companies are actually growing their profits pretty substantially year over year, quarter after quarter. That's good news as well. And a recession has a technical definition, right? A couple of quarters of negative growth, a slowdown across the boards, and a couple of key indicators. But a recession is also when your neighbor is out of work, when you do lose your job and can't get another one. We haven't seen a lot of that yet. So this has been a very difficult landing to pull off, and a lot of people still don't feel it. But generally speaking, the economy is in pretty good shape as we head into the election just a few weeks from now, and a couple of rate cuts on the horizon as well.
Caleb, let's go back 2 years. If we have said that we were going to have a soft landing like this, would you have thought it was possible?
No, I was definitely expecting a much rougher landing than we had because inflation was so high. When you keep interest rates that high for so long, it really hurts low-income families and households. They stop spending. But guess what? Nobody really stopped spending. We just extended our credit card debt. So we used a little bit of credit and a lot of that money that the government handed out to help us through this process. This is like unlike any other period of time, economically speaking, that we've ever had. That said, I wouldn't have thought we would have had a soft landing, and I wouldn't have thought the stock market would be up 65% from 2 years ago today. It did not look so good back then. Right now, if you're in the investing class and you own assets, the value of your home has gone up, the value of your portfolio has gone up as well. If you don't, you're still looking at an economy with plenty of jobs that is actually growing, where corporate profits are growing as well.
So nice to have one of these segments have so much good news packed into it. Caleb, what do these mean? What does all this mean for interest rate cuts?
You mean in 20 days, 6 hours, and 45 minutes?
I should have asked.
Next time meeting? 2 days after the election, markets are still indicating about a 90% chance of a quarter-point cut on November 7th, and then another one December 18th. Now, the strong economic data that we've had may cause the Fed to pause a little bit and gather itself, especially 2 days after the election. So if we get no rate cut in the November meeting on November 7th, it wouldn't surprise me that much. We're going to get one before the end of the year. The path for interest rates are heading lower and to the right. That's good news for borrowers with high debt. That's also good news for people that are thinking about making that purchase, whether you're thinking about buying a home with that first mortgage or buying a car. Not so good news for people with money in the bank. We've been enjoying 5% return on our money in our savings account and CDs. Those days are coming to an end.
2 days after the election, we might not know who won the election. So we'll see what happens. Caleb Silver, as always. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Well, it is a frosty Friday morning as freeze alerts hit the East Coast.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman is here with the forecast that I guess is going to change, right?
Doesn't it always, guys? If you don't like the weather, they say just wait a day or maybe even less. And that's kind of what we've got going here when it comes to the temperatures over the next few days, at least for the East Coast. We've still got alerts up as far as frost advisories and freeze warnings for 49 million people, but a whole lot less folks are included in these this morning as compared to yesterday or even the day before that. You can see parts of the Great Lakes, even the Midwest, kind of have seen those temperatures on the rise. And that's the trend that we're going to see here going forward for this section of the country. Right now, though, still needing a jacket in places like Chicago. We've got Lexington heading to 38 degrees, 39 for Charlottesville. We've got low to mid 40s from Fayetteville down to Charleston, even Tallahassee. Your temperatures earlier this morning into the low 40s. We've seen that number come up, but just a touch. And if you live in Florida, you're going to need a jacket for sure if it's 47 degrees out. Now, our temperatures will get a little better by this afternoon, at least closer to normal in some spots like New York, mid-60s, Detroit, mid-60s, Green Bay, Des Moines, Minneapolis, all into the 70s by later this afternoon. And that kind of general trend sticks with us even into tomorrow. We'll see a slight uptick in our temperatures in the afternoon hours for your Saturday plans across this area. And we will be above normal. So if you're looking for warmer air, again, Green Bay, Chicago, Springfield, Kansas City, all of those spots are going to be running warmer than normal for this time of year. But out west, it's a different story. We've also got some freeze alerts up for folks out there. But notice kind of the temperature tumble that we see in some of these spots as we get through the weekend and on the other side of it into our next work week. Seattle, you end up at 63 degrees on Sunday and then mid-50s Monday, and your high temperature by Tuesday, just 53 degrees. Not as a big of a change for Boise. You'll end up in the upper 60s and then mid-60s by Tuesday. But we've got some cooler kind of reinforcing air coming in with a couple of different systems that we're watching. The first one I told you about yesterday, that was working across the Rockies, and it's still going to be kind of in that same general area, bringing rain, snow, and the gusty winds. I'll show you those here in a moment. But we've also got an atmospheric river happening across parts of the Pacific Northwest. That's leaving us with a whole lot of rain to contend with, and we'll watch for that specifically across parts of the Olympic Peninsula, those northern Cascades. That's where we're watching for the heaviest of the rain to fall over the next couple of days. But this system still hanging out by Saturday, and we're going to see those kind of flash flooding concerns across New Mexico stay with us. We'll also see the gusty winds be potentially problematic for folks across this region. And it does include some of these wind alerts that are already up right now. We've got 19 million people included across parts of California, Nevada, stretching out into parts of New Mexico. This is going to be something we'll see through the day today and into tonight. Look at some of these peak wind gusts across this region. It goes really from the Rockies west, but Las Vegas coming in 43 miles per hour, Palm Springs 40 miles per hour. So some gusty conditions. We've also got the heavy rain that we're watching across New Mexico specifically. And we're most concerned about those burn scar areas from wildfires. That's where it's, of course, so easy for us to see some of that flash flooding. So that's where we'll be watching by later today. Otherwise, big picture look for the weekend. The East looks really good. I honestly don't think you have anything to complain about. If you do, don't send it to me because look at these temperatures, low 70s, lots of sunshine. The only spot that we're really going to be watching is where I mentioned that flood risk. By Sunday, we finish out the weekend across the East with an East Coast winter. That's for Savannah. She loves these. It'll be sunny and warm for the Gulf Coast guys. And then, again, still some of that rain across the Pacific Northwest.
All right. Well, we've got a winner. I love it. All right. Angie, thank you.
Winner, chicken dinner.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.